Welcome to Film Riot. Today we're doing something a little bit different. A few days ago, my DP of Ballistic, Chase Smith, came into town so we could record an episode of the Film Riot podcast together. And today... Chase.
Yeah.
So Chase and I sat down to record that episode of the Film Riot podcast, which will be coming out next Tuesday. And we talked about working together on Ballistic, the fact that it was his first narrative short. And since he was here, we decided to video it as well. Chase! Okay. So we talked about the fact that it was his first narrative short and other stuff. The point is we're going to show you a preview of it and the full thing will come out next Tuesday. But also the special features for the Ballistic Pack is finally on the store in full. We have over 5 hours of behind the scenes footage for you guys and other content as well, like the VFX breakdown, audio breakdown, director's commentary, the posters, the script, and that behind the scenes on set footage, which is over 5 hours. We tried to make it seem like you were on set with us, being as open and honest about the process as we possibly could, because I think stuff like that is the most educational footage that you can get personally. So definitely check that out, and a link in the notes below. I think you guys are really going to dig it, but it also helps us do bigger and better for the next one for you guys as well. But now I'm going to shut up and we'll get into it with Chase.
Logo.
Just a little clap, guys.
That last one's the one you're going to want to use.
I don't know. Mine was pretty good.
All right, I'll start. I'm Bert Birmingham.
Okay. Bert,
I'm
it's great to see
from
you.
Birmingham.
Okay.
And
What do you do, Bert?
I berm hams.
Oh, okay.
It's a complicated, long
It sounds sexual
process.
in nature.
No, it's not.
Okay. That's good.
But I appreciate you trying to derail my living.
Birmingham. Okay. So Ballistic was your first short film, your first narrative.
It was. Yeah, it was quite a first one to start on.
Yeah. Which I didn't know at first. I mean, I knew your work, but I had assumed that you had done narrative. Otherwise, I never would have asked. No. So I saw your work and your work was delicious, but I didn't know you hadn't done narrative, which I didn't think. Once I found out, I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I dig that, like meshing two things together that might not go together normally. Like somebody who maybe doesn't really enjoy horror films, but really digs the project and wants to do this horror film because you're bringing something completely different to the table. So I was actually stoked at that fact.
I think I remember that moment at the airport coming back from our first scout where you were like, what short films have you done in the past? And I was like, nothing really. And you were like, oh, cool.
Okay.
But, you have like the nerves. You want to perform well. You want to do well. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things you learn. But I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable on set. And I felt comfortable with you. And I felt, just comfortable with everything. And so I think just like that confidence moving forward and just trying to figure it out while you go in some aspects, and also like just the fundamentals of filmmaking, I guess, just making something through the use of cameras and film. But
it was just like, it was your first narrative, like just to preference it was your first narrative as DP. I mean, you've been on other shit. You worked with us on the Ghost House and Chainsaw. That you've done a bunch of others. You've been on set for a bunch of others, and you've DP'd like other major projects, just not actual narrative short films. So you're not new to this. I mean, obviously, as the end result of Ballistic shows. But how different did you find being the actual DP on a narrative piece versus like a music video or a commercial, the stuff that you have done?
I found it pretty different, actually, just in a good way. It requires a lot more, I feel like, emotion of myself to go into the piece. It rather than just shots, or a lot of times in commercials or music videos, you're doing things just to make sure they look cool only. It's just all about the visual eyeballs just staying wherever they need to be. And I feel like with this, I was trying to think about a lot of times, like, why was I doing this instead of like how am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a new approach, especially to like the pre-production, me getting myself in the mindset to shoot this thing that I had really never done before. And the whole way through the whole pre-production part, I was going, am I prepping right for this? You know, like, I mean, we had just a little bit of time to prep together, not very much, mostly
Yeah.
right before the film.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was going, I'm sure there's probably a better way for me to be prepping for this, but
Right.
I'm not sure of it yet. You know?
Right. I feel like I prep differently on every film. I don't think I've prepped the same way twice on any film. I don't know why. I'll use like different apps to do it. Sometimes I'll actually shot list out. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll just do like a shot list bullet point. Sometimes I'll do a list of like the general idea of coverage that I need. Sometimes I'll board. Sometimes I don't. I don't know why. I just switch it up every single time. Do you find doing that at all? Like, I guess what I'm saying was prep for this much different than you prep for like a commercial shoot or something? Or were you utilizing sort of how you usually do those things, but then adding in that meaning and theme that you're talking about?
A lot of it is the same, but obviously you don't have pages and pages of dialogue that you need to be pretty familiar with, you know?
Right.
And that was kind of the new thing for me, is to prep for dialogue, to prep for major action, and just kind of get my mind as ready as it could be for like when those things are happening. So you're kind of, so everything is like really familiar in your mind as it's going on, and you're kind of, because when you're shooting it, it's just like it's ride or die. Like it's go
it's all
time,
go,
you know? And that's something that I've learned on being on set, is like, you don't get to set to figure it out. You get to set to do it. And so you figure it out as much as you can before, as if, you know, you get behind if you're trying to figure it out on the day, and, you know, bad things can happen.
Occur. That's the main reason I like shot lists, is like shot lists, even though I don't think we stuck to, I think we mildly stuck to maybe one in Texas, but for the most part, like at the beginning, but for the most part, we did not stick to any of the shot lists that were built out. But I like them because it's pretty much what you're saying. It's at least like a top-down plan of, okay, this is the intention of what I'm going for, and I have time in pre-production to think out the whys, like you're saying, of why the camera would be here, why the camera would move this way, be it audience experience, be it pushing the thematics of the moment, whatever it is. That way in production, we can shift, but then shift and stay within intention still, and move fast. In LA, we had the tech we had the location scout, which turned into a tech scout.
Yeah.
Because both of us just flew to LA, which was so useful, because that first place, woof.
We dodged a major bullet.
Yeah. So what happened was, for anyone listening, is we went to LA, and the first place that we went, it worked for the car flip or the car gag that we did, but it didn't really work for anything else. It would have been such, like, we were just sitting there trying to figure out.
Different.
Yeah, it did not look like it, you know, the idea was supposed to be this like car graveyard, just like the idea of sort of death and decay everywhere, but there was like green grass and like
a perfectly paved road.
Yeah, paved road, a house, and we were just like, all right, well, if we don't shoot anywhere but this direction and that direction, I think we can make it work. And we were both just stressing out so hard.
I remember being so bullheaded that day, because there were a lot of people around us going, yes, this is where we have to do it. This is the only place we can flip the car, all this stuff.
Right.
And I was standing back going, but do we
don't
have to?
Yeah, there's gotta be. But then somebody else is like, well, we own, the lady that was with us is like, well, we own another property. It's a movie ranch right down the road. We could take a look at that. I'm like, yeah, let's take a look at that. Then we're driving in, and as we're driving in, you and I just perk right up.
Yeah. But this was like 50 minutes probably into like that first, I feel like, location where before this was even like on the horizon for us to.
But the second we pulled in, it was like, well, this one, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were just like, well, can we just do it here? They're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, well, okay, then there we go. So then it was like, that's locked. And then we were able to just walk through and do that tech scout, which was just massively useful for me, because I was able to sort of rework the script to fit the location. But what were you sort of looking for in LA with that tech scout?
Geography, I feel like. Just like trying to place those where this world is happening in this spot, you know, like, and trying to find, I mean, another big thing for me was all the stunts, all the wire pulls, and we would look at a location and they go, okay, well, great. Like, where do you want the crane?
Right.
And I'm
I
like,
guess we can't do it right here then.
yeah, it's kind of like, okay, didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's think about that. How big is this crane? And they're like, massive.
Oh,
And it's like,
okay.
okay, cool. So, you know, it's things like that. And that's the sort of things that I asked questions on the day because I had never done wire pulls. And I was like, well, tell me about the crane. Like, what do you need? Like, what's the footprint? Like, you know, how much do I have to avoid, you know? Because when you say, like, put the crane here, like, then the crane goes there and it doesn't move quickly.
Yeah.
So that was a bit nerve-wracking at times, but just walking away, having been in the physical location, you know, is so valuable, especially for what we did there.
It's nerve-wracking a little bit for me. It's like you write this whole thing and you have it in your head. And there's a very specific vision in my head of what I want it to look like, feel like, be like. But then when it comes down to actually materializing the thing that was on paper, it's not the same. It adjusts, especially when you see the location. This is a totally different room than what I imagined. The walls are a different color than what I imagined. How we'll be able to work in light is different than what I imagined. So it's like it's all, you know, adjusting as we go, and it's just finding that, well, what's the central color of all this stuff? Like, what does this actually physically look like? It's so nerve-wracking because it could go so wrong so quickly, and completely shift the tone from what's intended. So that's always very scary for me. But I do get very specific. And I'm just wondering, when you read the script, you come up with your vibes. Did any of that? I don't really remember. Was any of that like opposed to how I actually envisioned it and then redirected, or did it kind of just mesh right off the bat?
I actually think I remember asking you, like, when we first dove into the project, I said, when you wrote this, like, what are you seeing? Like, I just want to know. I want to know the vision and the vibe. Like, what are you attached to?
Oh, so you got kind of a sense right up front.
Yeah, I think you shared, or you gave me a couple of films, and you said, like, I think whenever I read this, I start to see these films kind of flash, you know, or like kind of these vibes. So I took those and I watched them and I pulled some stills, and I then kind of reread certain parts and then started to dive into different vibes and colors and that sort of thing. And again, this is all without seeing any of our locations.
Yeah.
And I think actually something that a film that you mentioned, and then a film that really settled with me was Panic Room. And I found several references in there that I feel like I wanted to go after, that I used as kind of a when in doubt, like, go this direction, you know, or keep that in mind. And I think that helped me, that like one base image where she's like in her bedroom, it's backlit just by only the spill in the hallway. Like, just there's a little color tone there, and just like kind of just the exposure level, I guess, of that shot was just kind of kept flashing in my head. And like you said, like, there's not a lot of time. You like, it can go badly very quickly. You know,
right.
Like that first scene you do in that house, you have to set the tone. There's no like, that one didn't. I'll just change it.
The next scene.
I'll change it the next scene.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of establishing like, this is how the house feels. Mm-hmm. And so, and those moments go by really quick, you know, so you kind of, I just remember, I think we started in the basement. I just remember doing a little bit of experimentation on that morning and just kind of going, all right, where's my tone coming from? Okay. Like, so let's set that. All right, that's feeling good. So now let's work on, you know, my motivation of lights, and we had our practicals going, and then I went to like, all right, let's tweak my exposure now to what I want to, you know, how I want the room to fall. Yeah. And then before you know it, we're rolling, and like, what's done is done. Right. And we're moving on, you know. So yeah. And I think everyone would approach it differently. I certainly don't take or think anyone should take what I do as by any means the right way. It's just kind of what is coming natural to me. Yeah. I guess on the day.
And so much of it is like your gut. being like, yep, that's it. Where it's like you're in the thing and you're figuring it out. And we were talking about this yesterday. And then you're just like, yes, this is it. And you can't fully articulate it, but you know that it's it. And then later when you watch it back, you can be like, oh, this is why my gut was right. It did this, and this for the scene. But in the moment, it's really like your instincts that are pointing you the right direction. But of course, your instincts being informed by your experience. But I think like the green that we landed on was very much is this it? Is that it? And it's even in the BTS. I'm just at the monitor and you're toying with tones and you're like this or that. And I'm like, I think that. And you're like, yes. So it was like the same time we were both like, there it is. That's the feel. And we were both on the same page, which is great, which is probably from prep, but also from we just kind of vibe style wise.
Yeah, I think that's it. A lot of it for me is I try to keep like taste. It's just a taste thing. And a lot of times you can not know what you're doing, but if you like keeping good taste in for what is appealing to you, a lot of times you won't quit working on it until you start finding that you're looking for. You know what I mean? You don't just settle or go, there were times where like we need to roll and I'm like, it's not there. Hang on. Hang on. Like trust, like we need a second.
Give me a minute.
And so there's definitely moments like that where my plan is not working, and there needs to be some tweaks and we find a way around and not everything's perfect, that's for sure, especially in my eyes. But I'm definitely proud of what we did and
for sure.
It was just a blast. I just learned an incredible amount.
Yeah, it's like every project's another film school, but like the best, most elevated film
There's
school.
There's nothing like it.
And just intense film school of stress and awesomeness. Domain.com is all your website needs, including intuitive website builders, so you can take the first steps in creating your identity online. They're affordable, reliable, and have the tools you need to build a new website. Start sharing your ideas with the world on a professional website. No domain extension is going to help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. And if you want to brand yourself online, Domain.com has over 300 domain name extensions to fit your needs from .club to .space. And of course, they're giving you 15% off their already affordable prices when you get domain names, web hosting, and email. Just use the coupon code FilmRiot at Domain.com's checkout. When we think domain names, think Domain.com.
Logo.
So that's it for today, which means it's time for my suggestion of the week, and that is our special features for Ballistic. I already talked about it, but I'm doubling down on this. We're really excited about these. Josh spent a good portion of his life over the past few months putting this together, and I really think you guys are going to dig that content. So definitely check that out below. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.